My entire life is really about one theory, okay? Like I do this entertainment thing and I talk to people and all this stuff. Bullshit. Really what I am is an academic who realized that you can't do academics inside of the university system and watch it disintegrate into madness as we speak.
It's as if a particle has moved through once it was emitted from the radioactive substance. That is not what is predicted by the Schrödinger equation. The Schrödinger equation says there should be a wave, big puffy thing going out in all directions. What you see when you look at it is as if the electron looks like a particle. So it's almost as if the electron is kind of like a wave when you're not looking at it. But it's a particle when you look at it. So this should bother you a little bit. It's not your fault if it's bothering you a little bit. You should actually be bothered. Many people are bothered when they're students and they first hear this, and when they ask questions, they are told to shut up. And if they keep asking, they're told to leave the field of physics.
The New York Times reported, tiniest nuclear building block may not be the quark, was a statistical fluctuation. The Higgs was discovered again, a 1 in a 16,000 chance to be a random fluctuation. Guess what? That signal vanished too. Supersymmetry was discovered again. That signal too was at about 3 sigma, but then disappeared. We saw the diphoton anomaly that made it above 4 sigma and disappeared again. There have even been some 6 sigma signals that disappeared again. The Tevatron at Fermilab measured some events they dubbed superjets at 6 sigma. They were never seen again. In 2004, Hera at Daisy saw pentaquarks, that are particles made of 5 quarks with 6 sigma significance, but that signal also disappeared. Possible reasons why a discovery might disappear are A. Fluctuations, B. Miscalculations, C. Analysis screw-ups, and D. Systematics. The most frequent one, just by looking at the history, are fluctuations. And the more data you have, the more likely you are to find a fluctuation that looks like a signal. That, by the way, is why particle physicists introduced the 5 sigma standard in the first place, because otherwise they'd constantly have discoveries that disappear.
Sean Carroll is covering up for this as well. In what way? They are too kind. Brian Greene. Like, I had this interchange with Brian Greene where I said, we're not being honest.
So like, people think that like Einstein and Schrödinger, like we're all together and trying to make this thing happen. But it's the same thing that happens today when like a scientist says something, somebody manipulates it, someone who has more familiarity with the actual community, and then you get these super nerds who are trying to like articulate exactly how crazy this is. And so when Einstein was doing it, he's saying that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. What he's saying is nothing can travel faster than information, right? Because light is simply just an electron changing energy states, right? You ever thought it was weird that the electron is everywhere, nowhere, it's got a cloud. We know the mass, we know the charge, we even know the size of it, but we can't see. It's nonsense. A photon is literally just the smallest unit of measurement, and compared to like, if you just look at these numbers here, this is how many seconds you have to measure it if you wanted to accurately measure about a meter, right? And so to get it down to a centimeter, that's what the bottom one is, right? An extra 2 zeros. So you can see from camera pictures that I'm going to post at the end of this, there's absolutely no way that that's the case. There's no relation, there's no time. Time is just a simple acquisitioning of data, right? Like it's, when he says, so then Schrödinger, right? He tried to make a joke too. He was like, look, with his own situation, he was like, basically, if you're manipulating my words like this, what you're stating is equivalent to saying that there could be a cat in there and that cat could be dead, it could be alive, like who knows, right? Like, but instead of actually looking at them like, oh yeah, that is crazy, they just ran with it. And so like, this is the kind of nonsense that's happening all the time anyway. I mean, this is what's going on even right now with the whole fusion thing. Understand, like that fusion is like, that is garbage. Like, I'll be straight up with you guys. Like, look, they're not telling you, I don't know if you know this, but they're not telling you like how much the machine itself is taking. So they're saying, oh, we put more energy into like this system, and then, or we got more out of this little system than what we put in. But this system is being manipulated by a machine that is plugged into the wall, right? That requires like 10 times the amount. So they literally have to go another like 10 times the power before they're actually going to just compensate for what's coming out of that wall. Now you take into effect that this is just theory right now, because what they have is these particles, these high energy particles. You don't have high energy particles running through your computer. You have to convert this to heat, which means you're going to lose energy. This is an efficiency loss. Then you convert that heat to electricity. That's further losses. And then now you have to get this to someone's house. So it's bullshit then, bullshit now, and they continually just give you this nonsense. And if you don't follow this, they kick you out of the field. This is the same thing that goes on in the medical field where you can't talk about consciousness, or the fact that like myelination on a neuron is the dumbest fucking thing. They say that myelination is like an insulator, and that's how it helps the speed. This is an insulator, right? Let's just say that if you put more rubber on it, you're going to have a faster signal speed, but in reality, it's a capacitor. The reason why they don't let you know that it's a capacitor and function, because then you would know that the pseudo-unipolar neuron, the one that's right here and that goes all the way and down, that's analog signal, right? An analog signal, it's basically picking up signals all the time. As you think, you're making these synapses, and that signal is going to your autonomic nervous system all the time. So that's, what you imagine really does affect your life and what you do and everything, basically. It's just basic physics. And I mean, you can guys get the idea of this. When you just think about something sad, you feel sad, your heart rate, everything changes. You feel happy, it affects you. I'm not going to get into this too much more.
You get the Voyager situation, right? And I was just laughing, ha ha ha, how dumb are they that they think I'm going to fall for this shit, right? And then there was something that I just saw after making the last video that I realized because I was still laughing now seeing it. It's like, oh my God, really? But in my head, I'm trying to figure out, like, how could the 70s be this mad? And I'm like, wait, dumbass. The same problem I have here, they had then. This is an intelligent SOS. This guy's literally like, hey guys, we're gonna send out this machine, right? And I'm gonna skim every atmosphere along the way because we don't use those to slow down. And then I'm gonna do this thing called the slingshot. Guys, come on, pick up on it. You can't let go of gravity. You can't just swing and let go of gravity. Come on, please. Someone, please. That breaks conservation of energy. Hey guys, everyone should know about conservation of angular momentum. So you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna go straight up or straight down. Looking at the trajectory, knowing orbital mechanics, having the book there, I couldn't, if I really intelligently tried to make less sense, I couldn't do so. It makes less sense. Like if you gave a child a crayon and you're like, draw your way out of the atmosphere, draw your way out. There's no way they could have done a better job to show you how insane, like there's no way that did not happen. Take a look at this Earth from space, from the moon, and it's dark as hell. You see Earth, the shadow, all this darkness, like they just painted the background with a crayon. But if you look at space from Mars, from the Perseverance, it's lit up, right? Because less atmosphere in the way. Yet somehow they go, oh, wow, shutter this, shutter that, exposure, it's so bright you can't see nothing else. Look at the blue dot photo, right? See Earth, this is us way out here in the darkness by ourselves. And then I'm here standing on the ground on Earth with my eyes, and I'm looking at Venus, I'm looking at every single planet that looks brighter than every star, bright as hell. Yet somehow in that blue dot photo, all it is us, right? Where's the rest of the stars? Where's the rest of everything? You're looking at Venus now, right? And I'm like, how the hell could Venus be 460 degrees Celsius and be bright as shit? And they're like, oh, well, it's closer, so it's reflecting more light, that's why. And 460 degrees because it's got this thing called greenhouse gases. I'm like, greenhouse gases? Gases that turn into a glass structure above themselves. A greenhouse, if you were to take the glass that was there and you were to take it off, it would no longer work. A greenhouse works because the sun rays make their way in, right, through the glass, and as they heat the air and the ground and the other particles, that would increase the pressure. There's no pressure. So as the pressure increases, that also increases the temperature, but there's nowhere for the air to move. If you were to remove the glass from the greenhouse, all of the hot air, due to buoyancy effect, would just leave. You look at heat transfer of radiation, temperature to the fourth. You realize right away, it's like, how could we get too warm? How could we, and at this point, I can't say too much without this video getting cut, but how could we get hotter, right? With temperature to the fourth. You look at the ocean, tides, you're thinking to yourself, the moon. The moon is somehow reaching past the atmosphere, grabbing up what is like 1,000 kilograms a cubic meter. Yet, and it's incompressible. Yet all this atmosphere in between the moon and the Earth is there to be grabbed, right? What is the mass there? It's 1.25 kilograms a cubic meter at sea level. And as you go higher, it's less and less dense, and it's compressible, which means if we have tides at this level, how far does our atmosphere really go? Is it really this nice little hugged bubble that we think? Does this make more sense now why we stopped going back into space and why we just pay Russia, the people we literally hate? We hate them, and we were spending tons of money to use their antiquated, older than my mom technology to get us to the ISS, because it's a lot harder to keep people quiet. You saw that interview with Neil where he looked like he just saw the end of the world and he can't say anything. You look up at the moon and you imagine to yourself, if it's really white, right? And you think to yourself, like a full moon, right? Like somehow rays from the sun behind me are coming around the earth, hitting the moon and reflecting full. Somehow the moon is like whiter than the sun, right? And we know that the sun, the color of it, will change throughout the day depending on how much atmosphere the light has to go through. The moon is always white. Think to yourself, white is more than one color. That's why it looks white. It's not like it's just white. So if the sun is yellow and the moon is white, that means that there's more color coming from the moon than is coming from the sun. Think to yourself, looking at the moon, what if the moon, right, had a lot more colors coming from it? We know that if you just do the calculations that I told you based on the tides, you know our atmosphere, we're sharing an atmosphere with the moon. That's not even a joke. So now, we're sharing an atmosphere with the moon. The moon collided into the earth. If you look at my moon, how we got here, you can consider that we might be sharing an atmosphere with the moon. And if we are sharing an atmosphere with the moon, then that would make maybe a little bit more sense as to like, what's the connection between, our circadian rhythm and the day and night cycle? What's the connection between, that the cycle of the moon and women's menstrual cycle? You start thinking about how these things may connect a little bit more. You start doing chemistry, and the things you realize will scare the shit out of you, because our reality is hidden, and speaking too much on it will get you you will be removed from society. They'll hit you with the tinfoil hat ray gun, and if you continue, well, then that's where you end.